How is everyone? This is my first time. Should I put that in? Should I put that in the description actually? First stream ever. There we go. How is everything? Is everything sounding good? It's all synced up. I've got a fancy little mic, look. This is gonna be the first time I've ever streamed. There might be some teething problems. If there is, please do let me know in the chat and I'll try and correct it. Everything should be fine. But I'm gonna walk through this tutorial of this look, and I found that when I used to do YouTube videos, like talking whilst I was doing it, I couldn't properly concentrate. So I thought, how about an idea of talking through a pre-recorded video where I can not talk? So we're going to do that now. So are we ready? Shall we get started? Let's go. All right. So let's begin. How is this looking? Oh yeah, this is fun. Right. So I'm going to take you right from the beginning. So I always start off with brows. So I'm going to like pause and play as I go and explain things as I go. If you need me to explain something in more detail, do put it in the chat and I will pause it and explain. I'm super happy to. Hey Lena. So let's go. Lena. So I am using the Refi Brow Sculpt here. I love this product and I'm going to just push the brows up. I want her brows to be a little bit thicker here, and this product is really great because it's got a pomade wax-like texture. So I'm really working that through the brows so I can stick them up and they can last. I like doing the brows first, mainly because they just frame the face. They completely set the structure and the tone of the look. And I like just getting them out of the way. Sometimes it's very easy to forget about brows, but they are so important. So I always start off with brows, working that through, and now I'm pressing that product down and in. With this product, it does work better if you use it first. So I actually forgot to put moisturizer on, so I'm putting on now. I love using Epiderm. This is literally £3 from St. Sainsbury's. It's like psoriasis eczema cream, and it then just sets, it just primes the skin so beautifully. As you can see, I'm working it in really well, and look at that radiance and that glow that it gives. It really sets it. You'd think that it's quite greasy or quite rich, but it actually, something about this product, it just is the perfect consistency. It's very similar to Magic Cream, very similar. So now I'm going in with a brow pen. It is the Epiderm cream. Don't worry, I will be uploading this to YouTube and I will put all the products in the description. So if you do miss something that I've mentioned, I will put it in the description on that. So don't worry about that. Continue. So I actually normally use a Glossier pen, but I brought the wrong color with me when I went over to Clem's house. So luckily I had the Soap and Glory Archery pen, which is just as good. It's actually, I would say, like the drugstore dupe of it. And so I'm just going in and I'm fine tuning the brow. Now what I like to do is, as you see, I keep on turning her back to the center because I want to see the symmetry. So I always do 1, 2, 3, few little marks, bring it back to the center. I normally get behind the camera and I'll look straight on and have a look at how it's looking symmetry wise. So there we go again, there's the second one. I like to finish off the brows, one brow around 60% of the way, and then start on the next brow, because if you complete one brow completely perfectly, one, you're going to stress yourself out trying to match that, and two, if you need to correct things, if you go too much on the second brow, you'll end up ruining that perfect brow, and that pressure will always be there. So just do it 60% of the way and then go back in on the other brow. So now again, exactly the same. I'm just shaping the brow exactly how I want it. And actually, as I watched this back when I was editing, it's also a really good learning tool for me. So I'm actually going to point out where I probably could have improved as well, because I noticed a few things as I watched it back that maybe I wouldn't have noticed in person. So I'm also gonna you know, slate myself as well. So this bit with the brows, I do correct this in the end, but as you see, I'm trying to straighten it off. You don't want to arch it too much, because sometimes what that does is that just sort of, it makes you look angry, and we don't want that. So we just want it a little bit straighter, a little bit lifted at the edges. And now what I'm going with concealer, and I'm using in the same shade. Now this concealer does look lighter in the actual application, but it only looks lighter because it's compared to the darkness of the lid, and redness naturally brings the tone down a little bit. So while it looks like it's a lighter shade, it actually matches her perfectly. And I'm just using it underneath. I don't really do it much on top, just to completely define that so it looks like a fresh brow. Look at the difference between this brow and the other one. You'll see when I just bring it into the center. And I'm not using a lot of it. I'm literally using almost like a damp amount of the product, and I'm just working that in using the Morphe brush from the Ariel Morphe collection. And I'm using the other end of that to just really lightly buff that in. Can you see the difference? Look at that. So we're going in. I'm avoiding the lid, as you can probably tell, just for now, because I want to just see how the brow looks when it's nice and sharp. How are we going? And we're going too fast. Everything good? All right, so I use the excess of that concealer just on the top. I'm not applying any more, just a little bit. Is the Makeup by Ariel Morphe collab worth buying? Oh my gosh, 100%. I have my brush belt here, and look, it's pretty much like 60% Makeup by Ariel. So now actually what I'm doing right here, I'm going to pause a bit. So what I'm doing right here now is I'm going over the top of the brows with the Airbrush Flawless Powder from Charlotte Tilbury. And I'm just setting the brow very, very lightly. We're not using a lot of this powder, just because I'm not a big fan of overly shiny brows, which a liquid pen does sometimes leave. So I just knock off that matte, shininess with a little bit of the powder. And the Airbrush Flawless Powder is great because it is a hydrating powder, so it's not really, really dry, so it's not going to make it too powdery. Now I'm going to start off with the eyes. I'm going in with the Morphe pencil by, it was called Bar, but it's been discontinued. I can't remember the shade, but I have written it down. 1 second. So the replacement for that pencil is Spiffy. So I had a look, and Spiffy is the closest one to this pencil because this one has been discontinued, unfortunately. But what I'm doing here is I'm just sketching out the shape. And what you'll see is I constantly get her to open her eyes. I get her to close them again, open her eyes, just to check the shape, because your eye shape changes completely when you open, can you see? And when you close. So now I'm buffing that in with the Morphe brush. And I'm not really worried about this being perfect. I'm not worried about this being, you know, super, super neat. I just want to buff it in so it's not a hard line. And again, don't worry if this bit isn't, you know, completely perfect, if it's not, you know, fully blended, because we're going to go in with eyeshadow afterwards anyway. So as you can see, open eyes and then close. Check the eye shape again when it's open to see that that is, you know, symmetrical. Again, don't worry too much if this isn't 100% symmetrical, because you're going to go over with eyeshadow afterwards and sort of balance that out anyway. So the same as before, and we're going to go in and buff it in. I see you use the pencil as an eyeshadow primer. Normally I apply concealer anyways. You can. So you can also do the concealer first, but I find when I want to really blend in a pencil, sometimes when you go in with a pencil and then you're using it, the smudging like this, it mixes with the concealer and changes the consistency in the color. So I'm going in blind, like, you know, with no base on it on its own. No. Thank you. I'm trying to get better at brows. I think I used to be quite blasé with my brows, and I'm trying to get a little bit better with it. So now I'm just going in just to tidy up anywhere where I've gone a little bit sort of slap hazard, and just tidying up the shape a little bit. This is a dry cotton pad. I'm using very light pressure just to sort of manipulate. And the pencils from Morphe are so soft. They're very similar to the powder pencils from Charlotte Tilbury. They can be manipulated really, really easily, and then when they dry down, they, you know, they've set a little bit better. So now what I'm doing here is I'm just getting, sometimes when you do eyeliner shapes, you'll see on the other side of the eye is you go in and it curves and it dips. So I'm just keeping, I got the eye open, I just got in that little corner there, so it's a straight line when the eyes are open. And now I'm going in with the Morphe brush and applying the pencil with the brush. Again, this is almost like a powder pencil. So I need to catch my breath for a second because I'm going way too fast. I'm having a sip. Any questions whilst I catch my breath? Okay. I've rehydrated. Right, let's continue. So what I'm doing right here now is I'm going in with the Airbrush Flawless Powder from Charlotte Tilbury, and I'm going over the top of that. This powder is amazing for blending your eyeshadows out. So I'm using this to almost buff in any lines, which I find I don't want to put too much pigment on, but so I want it to be a little bit better on the blend. Going in with this powder is amazing. It's got the most beautiful consistency. And I'm going to carry on. All right. So I'm going in now and I'm just buffing in that pencil with the powder. Again, this is no colored, so this is just a solid. So on the edge, and the consistency of this really works beautifully for blending. And what I'll do later is I will blend in the shadow with that powder as well. Just because, again, like this powder is something I feel like is a must-have in everyone's kit. So now I'm going in with an eyeshadow. I'm actually using the Morphe 35XO palette. I have it here. And I'm using a tone which is very, very similar. So it's this color here. Can you see that? And I'm using that just to go in on any areas where the pencil looks like it's a little bit skippy. And I'm making that look smoother. And also intensifying as well. As you can see, that side compared to the other side is a lot more intense. No, literally, I drink Diet Coke like it's water. My mum will vouch for me, actually. It actually got to a point where she tried to lock the Diet Coke away from me at Christmas because I drank so much of it. And I will continue to drink Diet Coke. It's my thing. All right? But yeah, so now I'm going in and just building it up slowly. And then where I want to soften that blend, I'll go in with the Airbrush Flawless Powder. So the Morphe consistencies, I find that their collaborations with sort of celebrities, the formulas are better in those palettes than the normal palettes that they have. But for the price, I mean, you can't really go wrong. They're a great starting point, especially for, you know, maybe new makeup artists who, you know, haven't got a lot of money to spend on it because kits are expensive. So I feel like to start with, they're great. And almost if you use eyeshadows which aren't amazing quality to begin with, you actually have to force yourself to improve on your application because you're kind of working at a disadvantage. So yeah, I feel like the Morphe palettes are good for what the price is. The collaborations are always better in consistency for sure. So now I'm going with the pencil brush and I'm just intensifying with this slightly deeper tone. And then again, mixing it in with the Airbrush Flawless Powder, really buffing and blending it out. And I'm going to point out that not where I would have probably, or if I'm looking back at it now, I would say, can you see on the left side, I went a little bit into the brow bone. There's more of she's got more definition naturally in that area there. I don't know whether it's the shadow or not, but I'm going to assume that it's, you know, application. I should have also done that on the other end as well. Cheeseburger, 100%. What's your opinion on hamburgers versus cheeseburger? Cheeseburger. Definitely. The option for cheese is a definite. So now I'm going on with a lighter color and I'm just putting that in the center just to intensify that. Now you could go in with concealer here and you could, you know, make it really, really pigmented and really opaque. But I feel like this is a very soft eye look. So I wanted to keep it again, letting the bare skin show through. And I'm just brightening it up and, you know, defining the shape. Can you see that eye compared to the other eye? It's just a little bit more defined, a little bit cleaner. There we go. So, oh, I forgot that I can actually do this. So I can point. So I'm going across here. Look at that. Look. And this has got a setting spray sprayed on the cotton bud. And I'm just lightly tidying and cleaning that area up there. There. Like so. So, what do you think so far? How's it looking? I feel like when you come to cleaning up the eyeshadow as well, the best thing to do is to keep her straight, keep the model looking straight forwards and just follow the natural arch of the eye and how that is. Can you see how it continues? So I'm going to pause it. Can you see here how this is how you find your angle for your eyeliner as well, by the way. So I'm going to continue following that, continue, and I'm continuing the angle. Can you see how that lines up perfectly? Continued on. You follow the bottom lash line, and that's where you find your angle for your eyeliner. That's the easiest way of doing it. All right, continue. Fine. Yeah, I wanted this to be very soft. I could have very easily gone in with a full 60s and, you know, really gone and intensified that, but I wanted to keep it soft, especially because I'm doing a red lip. I wanted it, you know, nice and soft. So now I'm prepping the lashes for false lashes. And I just always curl the lashes. You don't want them poking down. And also it shows you what you've got to work with. Thank you, Taya. And I'm just using full fat lashes. I find this is an amazing mascara when you're using individuals. I'm going to use individual lashes for this because I really want that proper fluffy look. And I keep the eyes closed when I do this. I close mostly, and the reason why I close the eyes when applying on a client is, for those who are makeup artists, obviously I know there's a mixed bag here. Some are makeup artists, some are just watching for their own application. But from a makeup artist perspective, have you ever found if someone's got sensitive eyes and mascara, they just flutter and they get really sort of shaky, get them to close their eyes and you don't have to worry about that, about them sort of blinking or, just transferring it over. Also, as well, when you do it that way, is you actually transfer some of the mascara on the bottom lashes as well. Because sometimes when you put too much mascara on the bottom, it can transfer, it can smudge, and you just want it to be nice and soft. If you apply mascara with the eyes closed, it does a slight stamp of mascara on the bottom lashes, so then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think about it. Can you do a full 60s for the next one? Oh, I mean, I could do that. I have done a tutorial. It's on my YouTube actually, where I did do a proper 60s look. So if you want to have a look at that, you can. So now what I'm doing is I am applying short length actually, and I am leaving a gap between the lashes, because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer on a different length in between those. So I'm starting at the edge, working inwards, and I sort of flip between the two eyes rather than doing one eye first and then doing the other, because one, you might get caught out running out of the lashes, and that would be really, really disastrous if you've done one eye first and then you've got none left for the other. And also you can sort of see where the balance is when you do them together. And the trick is with applying individual lashes is literally just place them there. Don't try, if they're sort of not sitting right, just place them on. You need to keep the eyes down. If you keep moving them around, they're going to dislodge, because again, it's just sitting on a cluster, on a knot, which is easier to sort of move and float around. And you just leave them there, let them dry, and then you play with them. So now I'm going in between those short lashes with a medium lash, just so I create that flutter, so it's almost like a feathered effect rather than all one length, so it looks more feathery, more fluttery. And I've been really enjoying doing this lately actually, because it just looks like a proper sort of mink lash without the mink lash. Can you see when she looks up there how it's a change in length rather than all one length? Right there. Thank you, Mum. So yeah, I'm just going in and just correcting those areas. And now as you can see, now that they've dried, I'm going in with the tweezers and I'm just sort of, pinching any in which are sort of not sitting right, and going in with my hands as well, and just, correcting them and keeping them in place. So my tip for individual lashes is to just put them on. Don't think about it. Just place them there, leave them, let them dry a bit, and then shape them afterwards. So now I am going in with my first foundation. This is my first foundation, and oh, we've got our first bot in the chat. Hello, goodbye. So do you ever use fake eyelashes? Myself personally, yes, sometimes I do. But I use a lash serum, so my lashes are quite long. I just find that I'm lazy with my own makeup. But when I do it with other people, I'm like, yes, you're wearing lashes, you're going to do the whole shebang. But with myself, I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. But yeah. So I'm using Light Wonder first from Charlotte Tilbury. If you follow me, you know I absolutely adore this foundation. It's just like second skin. It really, really gives a lovely, radiant glow. It's light. And the reason why I like using this foundation is, again, I want to make sure that I am getting the concealer to do all the hard work. I've added this step now, which I now use the Too Faced Born This Way matte foundation, and I use that around the perimeter just to intensify around the edges. So the center is a lot more natural, and then the outer edges are fuller. It gives the appearance of, you know, a more full coverage, but it looks more natural on the skin. So I'm also using a second in-between concealer foundation step, and always bring it down the neck and into the ear as well. I sometimes am, you know, I'll catch myself forgetting to do this myself. So yeah, this is definitely something which I have been forcing myself to remember to do, is going in the hairline properly, going in the ears, behind the ears, etc. So we're speeding this up here, and I'm going in and I'm using light dabbing motions. We don't do big sweeping motions here, because when you sweep, you just sweep the product on and then you just drag it straight back off again. So I'm just building up on the areas. I mean, she's got amazing skin, hasn't she? So I don't really have to do much here, but we're just getting that. So especially for photos as well, when you really get that center bit looking fresh and then everywhere else is a little bit fuller, it just looks so much better. I'm now going back in with that pencil underneath the eyes, because I really want to define that eye shape. And I'm just literally going in with that pencil on its own and then smudging it in. I'm not using an eyeshadow again, because these are like powder pencils. They're super easy to buff and blend. Any drugstore recommendations for foundations? I don't really use any, to be honest. No. Foundations, not concealer, yes. So the concealer, I love the Collection Lasting Perfection concealer, but foundations, I don't really use any when it comes to drugstore for that. So now I'm just brightening up in the waterline of the eye. And as you saw, I use my brushes because I don't want to, you know, stamp my finger on there, because then it will transfer on my hand and sort of add oils there, which I don't want. So I use the brush. And oh my god, seriously, these brushes, you need, like, they sold out. I really hope that they do a refresh of this, because they are amazing. Just the shape, how they handle, they're so light, they're so soft. And yeah, I definitely would say they're amazing. So now I'm going in with the concealer. This is a Lasting Perfection concealer by Collection, as I mentioned before. And I'm using such a small amount. Can you see how it's almost invisible? I'm applying it, but you can see it's doing something. I like to dampen the brush with some of the product rather than wet it. If you apply too much, sometimes I find that it takes forever to blend. You end up having to drag it further down than you want it. It's better to do it in light layers and build. I always say this to those that I'm training, or that I'm, you know, teaching like tricks with. Treat your foundation and your concealer like nail varnish. So you wouldn't just put one big blob on, because that would take forever to dry, and it just won't last. We know it won't last, right? But when you do thin coats and you build them up, it always ends up better. Have you ever tried the Bourjois Halfway Mix foundation? Yes, that was years ago. And it is a nice foundation, but I don't think Bourjois are cruelty free, which is why I don't use them anymore. I don't. So now, what I'm doing, catch my breath first. But what I did just then is I went in with a concealer and just literally applied it in the areas it needs. Again, Clem's skin is so beautiful. I barely needed to do anything. She's had a little bit of redness around her nose, a little bit sort of, you know, bobbing here. And I just stamped, you know, lightly stained the skin with the concealer and built it up until it just looked absolutely flawless. I still want her freckles to show through. So yeah, right, Diet Coke sip time. So I'm using the new formula of the concealer. I have heard that. I never tried the old formula, so I have nothing to compare. But yes, I like the new formula. I'm glad I didn't try the old formula, because if I had them to compare, I think I would be very upset as well. But as far as I'm aware, I'm going in blind. I like the new formula, so sue me. And I like But yeah, so now I'm going in actually with, and Rafai had just sent this to me, is the, oops, sorry. Look at that. I apologize if that made a loud noise in your ear. I'm going in with the bronzer. This is their new bronzer, the cream bronzer. They sent it to me literally on the day I did this, and I was like so happy about it. I'm going to pause this for a second. The consistency of this, I'm actually really happy with. This is a bit too light for me, the shade, but for Clem it was perfect, and it really does blend in very, very beautifully. The new collection from them was stunning. I actually use all 3 of the new products in this look. But now what I'm doing is I'm going in with a mix of the RCMA powder and the Laura Mercier powder in the honey shade, and just to brighten up under the eyes and mattify it down. Can you see the difference there when you mattify under the eye and you use it in a precise manner? It just moves the area so beautifully. I'm just pressing it in with my favorite Linda Hallberg powder puff. I just love the point of it because I can get right in, and I'm just going in those shine points. So center of the forehead, under the eyes, on the smile lines here, and on the chin. I'll go in with another powder later on, and I'll go through that. But this is just my sort of first light layer of powder. As you can see, it's not baking. I'm just pressing it in like a traditional makeup artist puff style. Just really pressing that product into the skin. Now what I'm doing here now is I'm actually using a little ring light to check if there's any areas of shine that might have snuck through, so I know if I'm missing any areas. And then I spray it over the top with some setting spray. Now you can use, which as you can see Clem enjoyed very much, just to rehydrate the skin and just to refresh it. Now I'm using the Rafai Summer Skin, the highlighter from the collection. I thought this would be too dark for her because it comes out and it's quite gold. I'll show you actually. So looks quite dark, doesn't it? When I saw this first, I thought, oh gosh, like that's gonna be really, really dark, even for me. But it doesn't blend out with that pigment. It kind of just disappears. Look, just disappears into the skin, and it gives such a lovely glow to the skin. I really like it. I thought it was going to be sticky, but it isn't at all. It actually is almost like a real smooth consistency. I'm just putting it on the highs of the cheekbones and the bridge of the nose and on the Cupid's bow, just to add that lovely radiance. Look at that. And now I'm going in with the blusher. This is probably my favorite. I love a cream blush, to be fair, but this is my favorite shade from the collection that they sent me. This one is Malaya, and it just, look at that, it's so pretty, and the texture of it and the pigment in it actually is really, really nice, and it just blends like a dream. And I'm very fussy with my cream form lenses, but this one actually goes on really, really beautifully. I'm actually wearing it as well now. I'm wearing all of that too because I really, really like it. Yeah, it does look like the Iconic, but it's not as pigmented. So that is a perfect way to describe it. The Iconic London Original Highlighter, like the shade of it, but it's like a sheer version, because I find that the Iconic highlighters are really, really pigmented, maybe a bit too pigmented for the textures I like to work with. So yeah, definitely that is probably the best way to describe the shade of it. It's like a sheer Iconic London. So now what I'm doing right now is I'm starting the lip, and I'm actually staining the lip first. I am using the Tinted Love by Charlotte Tilbury. I forgot about these products for such a long time, and then I used a masterclass I did for Charlotte Tilbury, and I was like, oh, I forgot I actually like these, and I'm just staining the lip with the shade Love Chain, and I'm using this just to create a base for the lip. It also really helps with longevity for a red lip. I feel like a red lip you have to fully commit to, and if you don't, it always looks bad. So with this, you've got like 3 layers of pigment. You've got the stain, you've got the lip liner, and the lipstick. So I've got to just stain the lip, and now I'm going in with the H Cosmetics Anger Mood pencil, and I am just slightly overlining. She's got beautiful lip shape, and I'm just going over it ever so slightly, and just, I mean, yeah, Clem is so beautiful. She's got that proper retro vintage look, which is why I love doing 60s looks on her. And I'm just overlining the shape ever so slightly, not too much. I don't want it to look too intense. I just want it to look really nice and pouty. So I'm going in and just overlining that shape. And then what I will do is I will color the whole lip in with that pencil, just because it then is the next layer. So layer 2 is your lip liner. And I always find when you're doing, for the makeup artist, when you're doing lip shapes, keep their lips closed when you do the initial shape. Because if you do it open, sometimes people open their mouth with a slant, and then you'll do it in that shape and they'll close it, and then you'll realize that you've actually just made it even more uneven. So when you keep their lip closed, one, it's easier, because I don't know if you've had any makeup artists out there have had people, when you do their lips, it's easy, and they're just sort of moving it like every second, and you're like, stay still, please. But if you get them to keep their mouth shut, they don't have that option. So then I'm going in, I filled in the whole lip, and now I'm going in with the lipstick. This is the shade Karina's Love from Charlotte Tilbury. It's from the Hot Lips collection. And I just went in and just went over the top of it. Simple as. Now I'm going with the Airbrush Bronzer, and I'm just warming up and bronzing the skin. I wanted the look to look quite warm. Not like a traditional 60s look, sort of like a modern twist. And I'm just going in that bridge of the nose. I think what I'm doing is I'm trying to correct that shadow thing I did earlier, which I pointed out. And I'm just doing my light tweaks now. So a little bit of bronzer here and there, a little bit more highlighter. And I'm just correcting. I don't do contour too much, no. I find that sometimes it can be a telltale sign for makeup. Now, actually, this powder is what I'm finishing off with. I'm sorry, Clem, for pausing you on this face there, but I'm using the blotting powder by LH Cosmetics. It's so oil absorbent, and I'm just going in those, high oil traffic areas. So I'm going in and around the nose. I'm going in this area here where we don't want it, because this was for a shoot. So I wanted to make sure that those areas didn't pick up in the camera. So I'm concentrating around the nose, under the eyes, and I think I do on the chin, yeah, and the chin as well, and on the center of the forehead right there. So you get the glow where you want it, and then you get the matte where you want it. And that is it. So I just finished off her hair. That to finish off the full look, and that's it. That's it. I'm done. What do you think? I'm really happy with it. I can definitely see where I can improve on certain areas. I can see it now and it's bugging me, but I know that, the small minor things, but I always want to improve. But yes, that is the finished look. Do you like the Fenty Bomb setting powders? I've never tried them. Go back to chatting. I've never tried them, so yeah. That is it. Is there any questions? And I have a sip, because I don't think I've ever spoken that fast for that long. Actually, that's a lie. Definitely have. But yeah, that was it. So what I will do now is I will upload this stream onto YouTube. I'll have a watch back. Hopefully there's not too many things out of sync. But yes, I hope you enjoyed that. I definitely did. Do you connect your lip liner in the corners? Yes. So I do the shape closed, and then I got her to open her lip, and I just tucked it in at the edges. But yeah, definitely, because if they open their mouth, it's going to show, and that's a big no-no. When I used to work at Mac, for sure, when we were doing our like advanced certificates, if you missed that, it was a fail. But yeah, thank you so much.